Hey guys, and welcome back to another Coffee Date Thursday. Today is April 23rd. Again, this week kind of flew by, which I'm okay with because I'm ready for spring to officially be here. So before we get into the topic, let me show you my cup. Today's cup is courtesy of Starbucks. So this is one of the cities, like Where Are You? I think they are called mugs. This is from Detroit, so my home state, Michigan. My sister is collecting these. I would love to collect these, but she's just a little more ambitious with these than I am, and I technically don't have the room for them, but I love how big this is. My husband's always stealing this cup, and so finally I saw it was clean this morning, and I'm like, I'm going to take this cup before he tries to take it, because I haven't showed this in my video yet, so there it is. So today's topic is your birth story. So this could be one of your children's birth story, or love story if you are a mom. So I've kind of talked about me and my husband's story before, so I feel like I want to talk more about the birth story for my kids. So just a little recap of my situation. I do have 3 kids. Technically, my oldest, Kaylee, is my stepdaughter. She was born 1 year before my husband and I met and got married. So she will be 11 here in May. We've been together almost 10 years. So I can't tell too much about her birth story, but I can tell about my boys. Devin, who is my oldest son, and he was due on April 13th of 2006. That was his initial due date. So I was naughty and didn't really go to the doctor or do anything, like do the things I was supposed to when it came to Devin in the beginning of my pregnancy, because I was nervous to tell my parents. My husband and I were only just married. We were married in July of 2005 and we got pregnant pretty much immediately. So I didn't really tell anybody outside of like my friends and work, so I wasn't sharing it with family. And so I waited till I was 7 months pregnant to go to the doctor. I know that's awful. I get it. I know what the risks were. But to be honest with you, it was the easiest pregnancy that I've heard of, to be honest with you. I never really had any symptoms. I gained minimal weight. Like, it was pretty much just all him that I was gaining weight for. And so I went to go get checked out and everything was fine. A month before his due date, my liver enzyme count was off. So they were worried about that and they admitted me to the hospital. I stayed there for a week. They monitored me religiously, like they were always checking, but nothing was changing, so they sent me home. 2 days later, I went in for a checkup, and they admitted me again because it was the same thing. So I stayed for a week, was out 2 days, and then had to go back for the weekend. In the midst of that, I missed my baby shower. Like, they wouldn't even let me go home for my baby shower. I was so mad. So I missed my baby shower, but my mom still hosted it because we had people coming from out of town for it, and they just sent me videos and stuff, which was nice. So that happened, and so after I got out of the hospital the second time, you know, I went back to work and everything was fine. I had a regular checkup coming up like a couple weeks later, and they did the second amniocentesis for me. And for those of you who might not know what that is, they take a long needle, probably about that big, they put it in the middle of your belly to get fluid, or to draw from the fluid around the baby to check the development of their lungs. And so they did that on a Friday afternoon. Everything was normal, everything was fine. I went home and we were good to go. So the next morning I wake up and I'm not really feeling that great. I kind of just feel blah, very sluggish, kind of cold. And my husband works second shift then as well. So he went to work about 2 o'clock. And I had made sloppy joes for dinner that night, which we love. So I made sloppy joes and I only ate just a little bit, like maybe a half a sloppy joe, and I just felt like I couldn't stand, like it was so weak and I was freezing, but I knew I had a fever. So I bundled up in bed and I laid there for a while, and all we had at the time was a baby thermometer. And I feel like I was so young and naive, I didn't know if there was a difference between a regular thermometer and a baby thermometer. So according to the baby thermometer, I had a fever of 103.2, and I was home alone. My husband was at work and he had our vehicle. So I had no way to get to the hospital myself. I couldn't really do anything, but I felt like I was so sick I couldn't move. I couldn't really do nothing at all. So I called my mom and I said, Mom, I don't know what to do. I gotta try to get Dave out from work, but if he can't come to work, I think I need to go to the hospital. My mom lived 45 minutes away, so it would have taken her a while to get to me. Thankfully, my husband was able to get out of work early and he'd come home to me, and he took me right to the hospital. Apparently what we found out is as soon as I got into triage, they gave me antibiotics of what they could give me, and I had got an infection from the amniocentesis. So that was super late at night. That was probably, I don't know, maybe 10 or 11 o'clock at night, because my husband did work second shift, so it was hard for him to get home earlier than that. So they admitted me to the hospital, and I stayed throughout the night and into the afternoon part of the next day. They were monitoring me and the baby to try and see if they were going to induce us or not. Well, it got to the point where whatever levels they were monitoring were not where they wanted them to be, and they were nervous for the baby. So they were going to send me to the nearest NICU, which for us, the nearest NICU is only 25 minutes away. But knowing my luck, it was full. It was so packed they couldn't take us. So they had to send us an hour and a half away. So that, I get motion sickness, car sickness, super bad. So they put me in the back of a ambulance to get me there, and I was already nauseous because I hadn't technically eaten in 24 hours, and I didn't think I was going to make it that whole ride there. Well, so they sent me down there and basically monitored me. They decided they were going to induce me, so that next morning they broke my water, which, by the way, I'm sorry, I know I'm going to sound like a big whine ass, but I was so much in pain. Like, I could not stand that. I don't know if it was the pressure or what it was, but I was bawling. It hurt so bad. Granted, that was the worst pain I'd ever dealt with in my life up to that point. So I was such a baby. It was kind of ridiculous, but it really did hurt. Like, I couldn't stand it. So I was in labor for about 13 hours. I did get an epidural about 4 or 5 hours in. Once I started really feeling the contractions, there was no progress basically all day. I really wasn't dilating. There was no anything. So it got to be about 9:30 that night, and I was super tired, and so they had the blood pressure cuff on my arm, and they were monitoring me and everything. Well, I leaned over because I wanted to lay on my side, and I must have laid on it wrong to where it looked like I had no pulse, like I had no whatever they were monitoring, because the nurse rushed in, flipped me over, and said, "Well, are you okay? What's going on?" And at that point, I was so just tired and out of it, I couldn't even answer her. So they were pretty much done waiting with me at that point, so they decided they were going to take my son by emergency C-section. Now, for someone who's sleep deprived, nauseous because they haven't ate, but also because they're about to give birth, and a new mother, I was so terrified because all of a sudden all these doctors and nurses are in there prepping, and the doctors make me sign papers. My husband doesn't know what's going on because he's not dealt with that part before. So they wheeled me into the operating room, or whatever I guess they would call it. And at 10:07 p.m. that night, April 9th, 2006, my son Devin was born. Now, mind you, he was born with a fever because this whole time they were monitoring me because I still had a slight fever. He was born with that same fever, and so he was admitted to the NICU. And I was taken to recovery and then back to my room. I spent 3 days there, and, got to see Devin when I could, which was great. But Devin had issues, more issues than we knew. He had digestive issues, he had stomach issues, and so he couldn't keep any of his food down. So when I got to go home 3 days later, he didn't get to come with me. Mind you, like I said, this hospital is an hour and a half away from my house. So I am back home, recovering and stuff. And every day for 21 days, I called to check on my son 3 times a day. After every single meal, I called to see how he was doing. He was there for 3 weeks, and I saw him once in that 3-week period. My newborn son was there an hour and a half away from his mother. Granted, I didn't plan to breastfeed at that point because I didn't feel like I had all the knowledge I do now of what the benefits of that was, but I didn't get to have a say on the pacifier. I didn't really get to be involved with his feedings. I didn't get to give him his first bath. None of that. I missed out on the first 3 weeks of his life pretty much because of the infection and what it had did to him. Now, after that 21 days, he was able to come home, and so it was great to have him here, and I missed him that entire time. Every time they told me he couldn't come home, I would bawl my eyes out because he was my firstborn, he was my first love, and I just wanted him home with his mom. So that was kind of the dramatic birth story for Devin. I had the easiest pregnancy. Up until 8 months pregnant, I had no issues, didn't gain hardly any weight. I never really got morning sickness, nothing. It was easy. And then at the end, that was when the drama happened. Now with my second son, there's not much of a story with that one because the pregnancy wasn't as easy. The first 3 months were kind of hell for me because I was sick all the time. Everything I ate, everything I drank, it didn't matter if I had eaten and drank my whole life, it made me sick. So I did lose some weight in the beginning, which was great, but then halfway through the pregnancy, well, probably about 3 or 4 months into the pregnancy, I had gained all the weight I was going to have that whole pregnancy. By 3.5 months pregnant, I looked 9 months pregnant, and I've kind of kept it since then. So, and then of course I stopped being having morning sickness. So after that, it was fine. We did a scheduled C-section for my second son because I do not like pain. I'm terrified of pain, and I can't handle it well. So I figured, okay, I've been through one C-section. I know what to expect. I know what takes. Or what the recovery takes, and I know how to handle that. Let's just do that. And so we did. So December 18th, we scheduled, he was due on Christmas. He was due on Christmas of 2007. So we scheduled the C-section for December 18th of 2007. So on 9/18 a.m. on December 18th, 2007, Connor James McDonald was born. So basically, to kind of recap that, Devin was born at 10:07 p.m. April 9th, 2006. He weighed 7'7" when he was born, and I believe he was 21 inches long. He was a bigger baby lengthwise. Connor was born on December 18th, 2007. He was weighing at 7'15", and he was 19.5 inches long, and he was born at 9:18 a.m. So that's my birth story for both my boys. I feel like they were complete opposites. There was an easy pregnancy, difficult delivery kind of story. Then there was a more frustrating pregnancy, and then the easy delivery story. So it's very fitting for my boys, though. Their personalities really suit how they came into the world. So anyway, that is my birth story for my boys on today's Coffee Date Thursday. I hope you guys enjoyed this video. Thumbs up if you guys have been liking this series. I really love looking forward to see what Tasha is going to tell us the next week's prompt is, because it gets you thinking, gets you ready for the new one. So anyway, guys, thank you so much for watching, and until next time, I'll see you in my next video. Bye.